You heard?
All right, family, it's your brother Assad, and I'm back again with another quick video. So make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell so that you'll be notified when we drop new content on this channel. Secondly, in terms of housekeeping, I gotta make sure that I thank my South African family for all the love you guys have shown this channel, my children, my wife, my family, all those greatly appreciated. I said I would never do an episode without giving y'all a particular attention, but also attention to all the other people that support this channel. And lastly, in terms of housekeeping, March Madness is coming, and we will be there March 12th. We got Doc and his wife who will be there. We have Brandy's coming with us. It's just a whole group of folk going to SA and having a good time. Brother Denzel will be there, and we're going to have us a good time in South Africa in Johannesburg. So we look forward to meeting our family members and connecting with a whole lot of people. But today I got Dr. Turner on, and it's kind of on a more somber note. So Riky Rick, South African hip hop artist, writer, singer, producer, hip hop mogul, platinum selling artist of Family Values. Yesterday he ended his own life, and that really touched me in a very peculiar way, because it was after before I saw that, I had read the statistic that said that suicide amongst African-American males is skyrocketing. We know recently we just lost Regina King's son by suicide. And I said, man, I need to get Doc on here, and we need to have a conversation about what is going on with Black men worldwide, in the United States, in South Africa, as it relates to our mental health. So I got my brother, clinical psychologist, associate professor at Xavier University here in New Orleans, a brother with a degree. Name of his show, Brothers with Degrees, but a profound intellect, a mental health expert, and somebody that I am privileged to call a friend, so we can get on here and hold this conversation about Black mental health. Now, a lot of times when our shows, and I'm about to bring you in, but I want to say this, a lot of times, the shows that we have, when we're talking just our love for SA, or we're laughing and we're joking, they get a lot more enthusiastic response. But sometimes we have to be serious. Sometimes we have to deal with some of the real concerns in our community. And as we can see, that this is a truly significant concern. So Doc, what's going on with Black men and their mental health?
And look, right now in America, we coming off of this Trump presidency, and the attacks on the Black body have risen to rates that we hadn't seen since post-Reconstruction. So and almost one could say even almost to the rates we saw during the slavery of the African enslavement period in America. So what I think we're dealing with, I'd be Black in America, man. And the reality is that we still suffer from not having the resources and the outlets to deal with mental health issues. Excuse me. We're dealing with this pandemic per se right now in this moment, that we still deal with higher rates of joblessness, or what one would call not so much unemployment, but like low level employment, right? So the fact is underemployed, right? So brothers and sisters aren't necessarily having jobs to provide for themselves and their families. We've talked about this a little bit before, both in these spaces, but also personally. One of the problems I think that continues to persist amongst the Black community that we suffer from is a lack of that cultural identity or cultural pride, even if we want to say it. And so what we find ourselves in today, and once again, not that I've had Riky Rick or Sister Regina King's son, or the sister who unfortunately jumped to her death from a window. Once again, we're being mindful that people deal with stuff, right? People deal with trauma. people deal with various issues that oftentimes can't and don't find the light of day to actually be addressed. And so what I would say to most people is like, this is what we've been taught to how we deal with stuff.
Mhm.
You know, is that we don't put it out to bear so that we can process it. We bottle it in, right? So if we think about the slavery experience, all too often, it was never about how we as the enslaved people felt. It was always how master felt.
Yeah.
You know, and so here we are as a free people, we still don't know how to talk about our own condition. We still have not fully embraced the idea that we can be well. But I would say it starts with this cultural identity piece that I think so often we're still struggling with. We're still struggling with accepting our Africanity, right? And America, that's a huge piece, because what I like to tell folks is there's only one group in America that white folks don't celebrate.
That's Black men.
That's Black people, right?
Mhm.
Well, but it's Black History Month. How many white people you know really been celebrating Black history?
Right. But Doc, let me jump in here. So when we look at brothers like Riky Rick, Regina King's son, and I don't want to keep referring to him as Regina King's son, so
Yeah.
I want to make sure I get his name right now. So excuse me while I do this. Ian Alexander, right? So we would say these people come from wealth. Or Riky Rick, you know, amassed some wealth. Ian came from wealth, fame, had all of the trappings of this world that you would say would make you successful. Riky Rick in particular was in touch with his culture, unlike, you know, our cultural disconnect as it relates to the continent and knowing who we are, even the generational divide. But he would be a little bit different. So what is going on? And more importantly, how do we give Black men in particular the tools that they need to kind of deal with these bouts of depression, to deal with these bouts of depression, mental health,
psychological
stress, right?
Right. So one of the things I would say, and I'm gonna come back to your point, which I would say this, because we can only speculate that Riky Rick had a deeper connection to his culture by him being on the continent of Africa.
Right.
But I would actually say, let's take the assumption that because of some of the fame he had gained, because of his experiences, maybe that was a part of the dilemma, that he wasn't getting the answers to some of the questions he had, right? So when we think about the Ian Alexanders, when we think about the other sisters and brothers, and specifically just about brothers who are attempting suicide at rates that are higher, I think one of the realities is that we have to normalize help-seeking behaviors, right? Because one of the things that we suffer with it, and Ronald Levant and Richard Majors did some work around what we call cool pose. And some of the work really delves into the understanding that for Black men in America, we don't have an identity that we historically can carry and be proud of, that we're so often attempting to put on a new identity to simply survive. Well, at some point in time, you might get confused about which identity you need to have on and which one you're comfortable with. And now you become this kind of like hodgepodge of identities, right? And that's not comfortable. And so what I would say to your point is we have to normalize that like cultural piece in terms of who we are, but that's also based in the fact that we also have to have some cultural practices that we have. So once again, as a Black male who's a licensed clinical psychologist, I might not be the therapist for every Black person, but we have to normalize Black people both being in this profession and people utilizing this profession.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We have to normalize Black men specifically being able to talk to people about what's going on and not be deemed as vulnerable or weak or soft. Right. Because
I'm glad you said that, because I wanted to talk about masculinity and its presentation in the American context and really worldwide, because the Western idea of masculinity has really become the dominant picture of masculinity. We are supposed to hold things in. Strength means to be the strong, silent type. You know, women say I like a strong, silent type, right?
Yeah.
We're supposed to be strong, and we're not supposed to cry. We're not supposed to
say I love you.
We're not say I love you. or feel what we would consider, you know, in the hip hop language, soft emotions. Boy, you soft. We don't tell our brothers, you know, I love you, brother. Or I'm thinking about you, for fear.
No
what is it?
homo is what Wayne
Right,
said.
right,
No
right.
homo.
Homophobia has us afraid to say I love you to a brother for fear of it being misperceived as something else. So there's this level of hyper toxic masculinity, right? That is just portrayed around the world. So how do we break that stigma? Because that, I think that is part of the problem when it comes to us seeking help. Because to seek help is perceived as what? That's being weak.
Wait,
You
yeah,
mean
you're
you
not
can't
strong
handle it
enough to do
yourself?
it. You can't
Right.
do it that yourself. Why
Right.
you couldn't do that? You had to ask for help. You're not. And look, the reality is that one of the plays on this is the notion that somehow Black men are embodying some type of hyper Black masculine, when in reality, analyses of masculinity show that white men and white women don't even believe that men have to have these hyper masculine identities. We as Black people, Black folks actually adhere to the beliefs of this more hyper traditional sense of masculinity in terms of the Black man has to be a provider, the Black man has to make more money, the Black man has to fight, the Black man has to be tough and hard. So there's an interesting conceptualization of masculinity that inherently I think has been passed down through the years of this white patriarchal society that white people don't even buy into.
They've moved on.
Yeah, well, they never did it. They said this is what it should be, but then when they was like, well, I ain't doing that shit. So if I use a cuss word? I'm gonna use a cuss word.
Go ahead.
So really, the emotionality or the emotional intelligence for Black men is oftentimes through history in America, and then as it has imperialism permeates through society, has been Black men can only have two emotions. You can fight or you can fuck. Both of them are hyper aggressive.
Right.
And they both are acts of violence, right? So if I'm fucking you, there's not a lot of love involved. I gotta beat it up. Like there was a clip that went around where the sister was talking about how women even use violent and aggressive terms in reference to sex and sexual.
I want you to beat it, knock it down.
If you knock my walls down, he ain't do nothing. If I ain't I mean, even when we play the movie White Chicks, what do they say? Once you go Black, you're gonna need a wheelchair, right? So we play into the joke about the mandingo sexual like predator.
Right. Yeah.
But the other side of that is that means the only other emotion we can have is fighting. And if I'm fighting, I'm gonna fight you, my brother. I'm gonna fight my old lady. I'm gonna fight my kids. That's a show of love. My mama call that gangster love, that ghetto love, right? If I can't have you, nobody can. So come back to the question for the night was around Black men and mental health. Well, if the spectrum of my emotions is so limited that I can't have but two emotions, well, when I start feeling these other feelings, I don't know what to do with them. That make me crazy. I'm gonna start thinking something wrong with me. If I think, oh man, I love brother side. Wait a minute, if I love a side, am I gay? Now I gotta question my sexual orientation, my sexual identity. When in reality, I should be able to love my brother as my brother, and that's it. I shouldn't have to question my sexual identity. If I'm gay, I'm gay, but it's not because I say I love my brother aside.
And it's also with that terminology is also because we don't understand that there are levels and different. We have in this society, love has only been equated to one or two things. You can love your parents, you can love your children, or it's romantic love. And romantic love seems to be the dominant notion that we have when someone is not related to you, you love them, as opposed to saying I love my brothers. That's why I thought it was important when rappers used to make songs. You know, I'll ride for my. The problem is it's still wrapped in the violent connotation. Right.
I'll ride for my homie.
I'll ride for my homie. How about I'll sit down and talk with my homie? Right. It's not I'll sit down and talk with my homie so we can discuss some of the problems that he's having so that we can work through something and I can maybe point him in the right direction. That's real love. That's brotherly love, right? They've reduced it to more of a gangster, as your mom would say, a gangster type of love, man. But
I mean, and think about when Puffy did the song about Big, right?
Yeah.
That was a true expression of love, right?
Right.
But he had to soften it up so much. He had the women singing it. He had the orchestra. It was all white. And so that was great. But people don't think about that outside of the reference point of, and you know this because you're from New Orleans, I got tired when Lil Wayne and Baby had their kiss or whatever they call it, right? Everywhere I went, everybody wanted to rib and talk about, oh, that's how y'all get down. I was like, well, if I'm honest about it, I don't care.
Right.
But if we gonna be like real about it, if that man say this is my son and I love him, and they say it was just a kiss of love and that's it, then what I'm supposed to do with that?
Right.
But everybody wanted to make that into some other homoerotic interaction that everybody has to be turned off by. So now, once again, come back to the point, if we as Black men are not allowed, and I won't even say allowed, I'll say if we don't take the position that our emotional spectrum is much broader than just fighting and fucking, then we're going to keep finding ourselves in these moments of despair where we will consider taking ourselves out, because I cannot sit here with these emotions and thoughts and feelings that nobody can help me understand.
Right. And it's because our only understanding of emotion is either this anger or the sexual identity, or the sexual expression. So when we have these other feelings of despair, feelings of confusion, feelings of loneliness, we don't know what to do with them. We are overwhelmed with these feelings because we're not taught to explore these feelings when we're young, or have someone that, hey man, you know what? I'm really feeling kind of down. I need to check myself, or I need to talk with someone about why am I feeling down. We're never given those tools.
Right, because how many of us will sit with our partner and say, man, look, bro, you know, I'm not really where I want to be in life, man. I need to talk about what I need to do because I'm not happy with this. Man, what you mean, bro? What's wrong with you, man? What's wrong with you? I don't want to hear that. What you? I mean, I've heard brothers. What you gay now? What? How is that? I asked you to listen to me because I have some questions about something that I want to do better in my life, and I came to you because I thought you the brother that could help me right my ship. Right. And now you're questioning my sexual identity.
Right.
Right. Like that's how that went.
Yeah. And you know why it goes there? Because the brother that the information is being brought to, he doesn't have the tools to expand outside of those two emotions that we mentioned earlier. So he doesn't know how to expand. So a brother, you know, I'm telling you, I've dealt with this in real life. Brother will call, this is years ago, you know, brother call and say, hey, King, I'm just calling to check up on you. I'll hang up the phone and say, man, that boy gay. That is how small-minded and, you know, how closed-minded and unemotionally available I was to have, you know, a brother reaching out to me saying, man, you know, that's years ago now.
That's not yesterday. That's not yesterday.
We be like, man, what do you mean you calling to check up on me, man? I check up on women. I don't check up on no.
Now let me ask you this. This will be funny. You have a sister, right?
Yeah, two of them.
No. Okay. So what's interesting is that I have 4 brothers, right? And so I always joke growing up is that I never had to worry about fighting because I always had a brother at each stage that if you tell me you're going to get your big brother, I got a brother that age. If you tell me you're going to get your dad, my brother that age, right? I got an uncle that age. But I remember very early on that we talked about the idea of loving each other. And so we would get made fun of. And when I was younger, right? Because me and my brothers, man, I love you, big brother. Man, who that is? My brother. Y'all tell each other y'all love each other? Well, yeah. Why? Well, because that's my brother. And I need him to know I love him, even if we disagree, even if we don't like it or not, I love him. Right. And if he still needs me, even though I don't like him, I love him, he can still call me. And so I think about that socialization because a lot of that came about because Dr. Naim Akbar talks about the attractiveness of gang and criminal enterprise for young Black men. And it's because it simply emulates the Black family. It emulates the structure and socialization of the family.
Say, man, it's the first time sometimes in those gang situations, it'll be the first time somebody's told a young Black man, I love you, man. I love you, bro. And they do it with whatever kind of way, you know? Yeah. And it'll be the first time that they heard that. Let me tell you, and my own personal experience in terms of love and the expressions of love. And I, as a 43-year-old man, I have learned that people express love in different ways, even if they don't verbalize it. I've never heard from my father. He's written it in cards. Like he'll give me a birthday card and write, I love you. Well, or already he'll write, love dad. Right? Yeah. But he's never said to me, son, I love you. I don't know. I've seen him cry at my graduations. I've seen him get on the phone with people, you know, oh, my son's a doctor. He got a PhD. Yeah. Or
That's my boy. Yeah.
Or I know if I call him at 4 o'clock in the morning, he'll get out of his bed and come do anything I ask him to do, or the way he responds to my grand. So, but he's old school. He doesn't have that tool of expressing love. That's just not the way of
Not to
saying
you,
love.
and not to you, not to
Right.
you,
Not
because
to
he'll
the
do it
son.
to his daughters.
Oh, and right, he'll do it, and he'll do it to a woman, his woman. But sons and fathers have that different relationship, or whatever have you. So, but he's expressed love through his actions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
However, I want it to be different with my sons. So I hug and kiss on my sons all the time. Even when I'm mad at them, angry at them, I'll come back and kiss them on their face and tell them I love them, tell them I'm proud of them. They hear this stuff so much, I wonder if they even take it seriously, or if they know that this is not the way I was raised. I wasn't raised hearing, I was raised by my mama. My mama, she and I, we don't get off the phone without saying I love you. You know, it's that type of relationship.
Yeah.
But I want my sons to be comfortable enough as men to be able to express love to another man without thinking that's homosexual, because you're telling your brother, I care about you, or I'm, you know, I want the best for you, or whatever have you. So try to break those generational curses.
And look, man, and what's interesting is that, and I'll be honest with you, I historically struggled with relationships with older Black men. My father's not in my life, hasn't been an effective father role parent, right? I can say that the one time my father intimated love, it was after a football game in high school. So we talking about the early 90s. And what he said was, you know, I love you, right?
Yeah.
But it was actually after a backhanded comment about my play in the football game that night. And he was trying to be critical of me until I gave him my stat line. I said, so the fact that you're bringing up one play where I didn't do well, when I had 2 sacks, a touchdown, a couple catches, and I said it because I was like, dude, what game were you watching? Like, you saw one play, and I was like, it was a play where like I was being double or triple teamed or something, right? So it's not like it was a play where I should have won. Because I was being double or triple teamed, somebody else made the play, which is what was supposed to happen, right?
Right.
And his response to defend himself was, well, you know, I love you, right? And I'm like, you could have just said, son, you had a good game and been done with it.
Right.
And so to your point, Brad, I think this goes back to what I'm about to say. Until I found healthy elders that I could connect with, I was always worried that Black men had that stolen from them in America. They had that stolen from that emotionality, that emotional intelligence, and actually from a therapeutic standpoint, we call it emotional regulation. Too many Black men are in states of emotional dysregulation, meaning they don't know how to deal with those shifts in emotions. That's why in relationships, brothers can't handle for sisters say, I love you and I want to do something for you, and it's out of love, because they're like, well, what's wrong? What's going on? I've heard brothers say, well, she can't love me that much, so I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna cheat because she got to be doing something, right? And we come up with this because it's dysregulation.
Right.
Whereas in many ways, if we were able to better regulate our emotionality and in those spaces, then we can have a conversation and say, hey, you know, when you said that didn't really make me feel good, or I didn't really like that. I need you to explain to me what you meant before I make a decision about what I'm going to do in response to that. So can you clarify for me better? Can you help me better understand? So when we talk about suicide and psychological distress, a lot of brothers are walking around in a constant state of, as our good brother said, rage. So to be a Black man in America, not just a Black person, is to be in a constant state of rage. And when W.B. Du Bois talked about the duplicitous nature of the color line, I really want to say that we have a multiplicitous identity issue in America, because we now have so many identities. Brother, as you say, you're a father, you're a brother, you're a husband, you're a professional, you're an educator, how many different identities you have. And every time you put on one of those different hats, the only thing you take with you is your Blackness.
Right.
And so many times we have to wonder, when you go to court, right? Well, what do I need to say today to make sure they understand that I'm here as a professional? Because they may not think that I'm here as a professional because I'm Black. Right. How many times do you get a different response in a suit and you drop the knowledge versus if you dress down that day and they don't recognize you as Dr. King?
Right.
You know, doctor side, right? So in those spaces, we wear that every day, and it's a constant state of rage. That's why oftentimes, we talk a little bit about the crime situation in New Orleans, and I like it when you dropped it. We get mad at Tita for having fun, but we don't get mad at the 98% other black people in the city who's having fun, and they know who committing the crimes, and they definitely ain't saying shit.
Right.
We mad at Titi, who don't nobody tell her, well, so-and-so over there running the dope and doing it, but the ones who know, they the ones at the second line having fun. They the ones walking around like, man, I ain't snitching on my people. I ain't saying nothing. So that constant state of rage, because that's why I stopped going to second lines, because I knew who wanted to shoot people and I knew who was supposed to get shot. I ain't want to be where neither one of them was. Good thing. I'm like Juvie. I'd rather see it on TV than see it in person. My head bursting. So my thing is, I love second lines, but I stopped going because I could never predict what those two mountains might meet.
Right.
And that would put me in a concentration, because guess what happened? Now I'm thinking, well, I need to carry me a pistol to the second line, because if something happened, if they mistake me, then I need to protect myself. And not everybody at the second line got guns, because everybody in a constant state of rage.
Right. Now watch this. Let's bring this into how much of this is trauma that we're seeing being played out as it relates to the suicides, really. How many people have experienced trauma, have not dealt with the trauma, have not resolved the trauma, and now they are walking around traumatized, right? Traumatized people in a perpetual state of trauma. And some of the only ways they know how to deal with it is hypersexuality, right? Because the first thing we want to say is drugs, right? No. The biggest one is hypersexuality, right?
Yeah.
Two is the drugs and alcohol. Sometimes it's hyper-religiosity. They become over-religious, right? But also then it becomes these mental health issues where people say, I give up. I just need, I cannot carry this weight anymore.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then, so
if we're, once again, the reality of what we talk about in this moment, and this fact that the greatest trauma in America is slavery. And look, here's the kicker. It has traumatized us as people of color, Black folks, but it's also traumatized white folks. Because some of the things we see white folks do, it's the result of their own trauma. Now, the kicker is this. The trauma is that they have seen it and acted on other people and didn't do anything to stop it, because the human condition says that I cannot be okay if I see another person being traumatized and I don't do anything about it.
Right.
I have to start questioning my own humanity. How dare I let this happen to somebody else? That's why everybody wants to fight against critical race theory, not because they don't believe it, because they understand they're being held accountable for the trauma imposed upon other people, and then the own trauma because they let so-and-so such and such do it, right? So when we talk about this, I'm going to make a call. I'm going to make a post about it. I'm going to do it after Mardi Gras, because ain't nobody going to pay attention to shit we say real right now. I want legislators to come up with laws that say you can't teach something in America if it ain't factually true. Okay, you don't want me to teach about people's feelings. Well, you're going to teach the truth. And the only way that's going to happen is if we get scholars that can verify what's there and what's not there. And if people can't agree on it, then we're going to have to let it be that, well, now you get to choose which one you want to teach, because we don't have a consensus. But it can't be that you don't want me to teach this truth, but you want me to teach the truth that somehow George Washington chopped down the apple tree, which we all know is a lie. And we know his teeth wasn't wood.
Right. They made our slave teeth.
Yeah, enslaved people teeth. Right.
Yeah. So
if we're going to tell the truth, we're going to tell the whole truth. Or you get to tell your truth in your space, and that's it. But it got to be the truth, right? So when you ask that question, brother, it comes back to the fact that the greatest trauma, the greatest stain, the greatest sin of America is the slave trade and slavery in America, and that traumatizes the whole country. So until we deal with that, that's the big trauma, right? So Brown Brenner's ecological model says that some things happen at the chrono level. The chrono level is the level so big, so bad, so high that can't no one of us changes. That's slavery. We got to get to the traumas that happen at the micro and micro levels, right? So the micro level is the trauma that happens inside the house. Yeah. So just like I described in my house, my father was not an active member of my home. My parents got divorced when I was 9. He was a hit or miss dad. He's never been that dad, right? And so even recently, I can say this because I tell the truth about my own life, because I ain't got no lie about. I don't know if my dad called and said, "Hey, Brian, I want to work out things." I'm 44. I'll be 45 in November. What am I going to ask him for? What can he provide in my life besides actually re-traumatizing me, right? Because see, I remember those days when my mama said, your daddy said, come and get you. It's Friday night. It's 7 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock. It's 10 o'clock. It's 12 o'clock. And me and my little brother sitting there with a Walmart bag waiting for him to show up, and he don't even call and say he not coming. Right? So those are those micro traumas that happen that I've been able to deal with. Now, I'm not over all of them. That's why I can talk about them, because I'm going to actively do things to make sure that my daughter never has to deal with that, right?
Right.
Because I'm aware of it. So that's one of the things about the micro traumas that happen, because oftentimes, and I'm pretty sure everybody's heard this, but what we talk about oftentimes is the straw that breaks the camel back.
Yeah.
It's not that one straw. It's the progressive accumulation of traumas and traumatic experiences, both experienced directly by me, but also witnessed and observed happen to other people. So when I see the police on the news roughing up another black man, it ain't gotta happen to me directly, but I know
secondary trauma
behind me. When people get behind me,
holding that steering wheel tight.
Look, I'm looking around the car like I got dope, and I'm like, wait a minute, you don't have any drugs. What's wrong with you? Like, what are you tripping for? There's no drugs. You didn't put any drugs in here. So if somebody magically put some drugs in here, then we going to jail, because I know I didn't. Right. It's the simple stuff about, once again, how many times, man, like, and I guess I haven't had this experience in a while, right? But when I go to buy stuff, sometimes back in the Gap, when a brother used to have to check his balance every time he went to the ATM machine, it'll be times I walk in the store knowing I have money, but I might sweat a little bit, like, damn, am I able to buy what I need out of here? If these people don't, they gonna say I ain't got no money. They're not gonna take my card. They're gonna say something wrong with me.
And man, I get that trauma every time, that not trauma, that anxiety every time I'm at the cash register, right? Because it happened too many times in the past where that card was declined. And my card has absolutely no reason at this point to get declined for anything that I'm buying out at a grocery store or something like that, But it is that trauma being that's I call it that poverty trauma, right? When you've been poor before, you intimately remember and vividly remember when you swipe that card and that someone gonna say decline, and you got people behind you looking at you. But I want to go back to how trauma doesn't only affect the traumatized, but the traumatizers. So when we look at those, as well as the other people who are around, right, who witnessed the secondary trauma, when we look at those pictures of lynchings, right, and we see that at those lynch parties, right, the lynch parties, right, they would have children 13, 14, 15 years old, sometimes even younger, and they would have this burning black body, this hung black decimated body hanging from a tree, and they would point, and you can search these pictures, right? They're and that's, and keep in mind, these are not paintings, these are pictures, right? A camera,
real live events,
real live events. So they're laughing and pointing, and these what type of psychological manipulation and maneuvering and dexterity do you have to have in order to see something that's so traumatic and not be traumatized as the individuals who are committing this type of trauma? How do you explain that to the children and say it's okay? So you mentioned human emotion. We are hardwired to have sympathy for another person. We're hardwired. If you don't have sympathy, you're a psychopath. Right? That's a personality disorder. But if you're a normal person, you have compassion, you have sympathy when you see that. So how do you turn that off? Right.
So in America, how you turn it off is by telling somebody what the great author, well, I think he's a great author and activist Tim Wise says, you tell people they white. You white, you don't have to worry about that. Nobody's gonna ever do that. That's why, if we think about it, once again, there's, I think, many more people who are way more universally heard than me say. That's why a lot of times in America, white America becomes afraid, is because they realize and remember what was done. And the fear is that somehow, some way it's gonna be done unto them. So from a very organic standpoint, right, that's how people will rationalize, this is why I have to be this way. Because all of my friends, my mom and my daddy, everybody I know is this way. And so if I go against that, then somehow that, and actually here's your example, right? It's the whole this flag is not about hate, it's about heritage, right? Well, if I tell you that your flag of your heritage is a symbol of hate to me, and instead of saying, hey, you know what, I respect that, so at least when you're here, I'm gonna take this down, right? At least in your presence, I'm not gonna offend you directly. If you can't do that, then you're choosing to make another human being uncomfortable for something that is a symbol, right? So that's where the type of stuff starts, right? When you think about the fact that here in New Orleans, we remember the White Citizens Council warred with the police in the early 1900s because of issues of integration, right? That they did not want the police to integrate, so they took up arms against the police. Like Amnesty International in 1999 said that the United States of America was actually acting like terrorists and having its own human violation rights. This is over 20 years ago that the United States was accused of these violations because they acted as occupying forces in the communities of color, of African Americans, Asian Americans, and Latinos, and poor whites. Because we remember, that's why Dr. King, that's why Malcolm X, that's why so many brothers and sisters were killed. Not because they were just trying to liberate blacks, because they was actually moving to liberate whites too, to understand that the dynamic of the capitalist system that we live in was actually doing what it's done today. It's working, right? And so once again, I can't even begin to think about how traumatized you are because I have to save myself. So yes, I might really not want black people to be lynched, but as we saw with what happened with the three civil rights workers in Mississippi, Cheney, Swerner, and Goodman, right? They didn't have no problem with lynching the white boys. Why? Because they were helping black folks to get registered to vote. So they will sacrifice whomever in an effort to prop up and continue to promulgate and perpetuate this idea of white male superiority. So then as a black man, I ain't got too many options. And if I can't use my physical body to assert dominance, what do I have?
So let's jump into this, brother, because that's powerful stuff that you're saying. But I want to make sure that before this video is over, all right, we have a friend. We notice that he is down. He is not quite himself, right? How do we as lay people, right? Lay people, non-mental health professionals, how do we approach that situation to make sure he's all right, to check on him, to let him know and I'm saying him because I'm speaking specifically about black men, or the black men in South Africa or black men in the US. And then before we finish, we'll talk about that cultural piece of it. But how do we approach our brother? Let him know that he's valued, that he is loved, that we are there for him. And if we think, right, he may need a little more than a hug at this point, right? How do we approach therapy? How do we approach mental health treatment?
One of the first things I would say, and this is old school to me, in order to be thought of as a friend, you have to first be what? Friendly, right? So if you care about somebody, you don't go at them and hit them over the head, right? You don't, man, what you tripping for, bro? Why are you acting like that? I would suggest a very simple thing. If you see someone acting different from how they normally would be, I say invite them out to do something that's fun. Put them in a position where they feel comfortable, that you're not judging them, because as black men, we don't be judged at all on any level for nothing. Give them a position, an opportunity in the space where they can actually invite you in to have that conversation, right? Now I'm being pie in the sky if you got all of the tools and all the opportunities. So it doesn't always have to be that you say, hey man, let's go out and, we're gonna go out and fish. You may not be able to do that, but what you can say, hey man, look, bro, let's get a drink, bro. I'm gonna bring a drink over, we'll sit down and chop it up, play some dominoes, right?
Right.
Create a space and opportunity where this brother can let down whatever guard that's going on, so that when you ask the question, they've already invited you in. So it's just gonna pour out naturally, right? So, a lot of times it's the family barbecue. You see somebody acting a little different, right? You don't say nothing, man, why are you over there tripping? See what they drinking. Go get what it is. Say, man, you need a beer? I got you, bro. Come on, man. Look, I got you. Come walk me to the cooler. Man, look, bro, you all right, bro? You know, you normally be joking and stuff, man. What's happening with
Yeah.
you? Man, I'm all right, bro. You know, just some stuff going on. But look, man, look, let's get a drink this week, or let's go get something to eat. We'll chop it up. Leave it at that, right? Because sometimes it's just the act of showing that friendliness that will allow them to later on be willing to open up. That's the first thing. Second thing, and this is to the other side of it, because I think sometimes what happens is people don't want to be honest about the actual need of individuals when they need care, because they want to act like, well, it's not that bad. I'm gonna say it's not that bad, so I ain't gotta act.
Right.
But what me and my friends do, and you know this, big brother, how we roll. I'm gonna call my friends out. Hey, man, look, we need to talk, bro. You're not doing the thing you supposed to do. So if all of a sudden, and actually, let's use a real example. We started going to the gym because we talked about how you have been doing your videos, then you stopped for a while, right?
Yeah.
Now, what you don't know is I've been motivated. So I've been in the gym 3 days a week religiously, right? And the reason why we've been able to rock is because my schedule has changed and I have to go to the gym at a different time just because of that, right?
Right.
But if ever I see you not doing certain things, I hit you up.
Yeah.
I'll be like, yo, man, you good? Or somehow I'll go on your page, bro. You know, I'll tag you in something just to see your response as a way of me saying, let me see what's up, because you ain't really been out doing what you normally do, right?
Right.
I got partners across the country. If I don't hear from them after a couple weeks or so, hey, man, you good? Y'all straight. Well, you know, bro, if I don't hear from you, if we don't touch bases on something, if even it's just us playing phone tag, I need to know you all right. And so sometimes you have to create that culture, because ultimately, if something serious is going on, you need to have established that relationship to act, right? People in crisis are not necessarily going to know. You can't tell somebody when their ship is being tossed about in the sea, hey, man, look, if you just row harder, they don't want to hear that stuff. You need to jump on the boat and help them. Or you need to take them out of the boat, say, hey, man, your boat not going to make it. Get in my boat.
Yeah.
And that's the two things. One, give it a soft opening. Let the person know you care. Let them know that when they're feeling comfortable, you're there for them. And then just follow it up. Like if they don't talk to you in a couple of days, say, hey, man, you know, I just wanted to follow back up with you. You know, I'm here for you. You know, if you want to chop it up, bro, we'll go get something to eat and talk. And then, like I said, if you see some actions or something that's really lacking, you got to act. You got to take that person out of that boat. Actually, I'm going to give this analogy right quick. And this is what I use with brothers a lot of times about therapy. What I explain to them is a very simple way. You're in your boat, you're in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, or whatever large body of water storm comes along, totally destroys your boat except for one little piece of wood. That wood has splinters in it, it has nails and it has screws in it, but it's the one thing keeping you alive, right? Along comes me. I'm the therapist, I'm the clinician. I rescue you. But I can't get you to let that piece of wood go. Now I got this big old nice yacht you on, I'm saving you, I'm taking you back home, but it's gonna take a couple of days to get out there because we've been out for a while, right? What's it like for you if you go to use the bathroom, but you're still holding that wood? Right? What's it like you gonna come to the table? I don't fix this beautiful meal for you, but you trying to hold that wood and eat. How you gonna cut that nice salmon up? How you gonna cut that nice steak? How you gonna get into that nice dessert, but you holding that wood, right?
Right.
How you gonna sleep with that wood? You can't let it go.
Right.
And you know, sometimes I have to tell her, brother, so I might have a young lady or two on the boat that you like. She might like you. How you gonna try to kiss her? How you gonna try to make a move? How you gonna dance with her, holding that, you know what I mean? So everything in your life is now being shaped by your clinging to and holding on to that traumatic experience that you should be able to let go, because now you're in a safe space. But psychologically, this is the thing that makes me feel alive, because this is the thing that hurt me so I don't know how to let go of it. And so what I talk about is we have to create these spaces where brothers feel comfortable putting down that trauma and talking about what that trauma experience was like.
Right, because that trauma creates this defense, and we walk around in defense mode all day. You know, it's that joke where Cat Williams said, man, how you angry at bacon? How you upset at you gang banging at breakfast, right? Yeah. But see, because the depression in men may not play out as tearful crying or whatever.
It doesn't.
In a society of hypermasculinity, it may play out as aggression. It may play out as being a workaholic. And that's another thing that we don't talk about. That brother who's, you know, he ain't dealing with no emotions. He just go to work every day. He get up at 6 in the morning. He go to work all day. He come home at 6, 7 o'clock at night. He take him a bath, drink him a beer, and go to bed. He ain't talking to nobody. He's not communicating. He's not expressing. He's not releasing. And he just does the same thing. And we say, oh, man, that's a good, strong brother. That brother is depressed. You understand?
He's breaking down.
He's breaking down. Or it's somaticized. All of a sudden, every time you look around, your leg hurt. Man, why your leg hurt? Yeah, you ain't working out.
You ain't playing football. You ain't playing basketball.
Right. And so we got to recognize those symptoms in our brothers. But
you just made a good point. You just made a good point. I want to say something, and this is going to dovetail to the culture piece, which I thought was dope. We have created this illusion that Black men who can simply survive is the model, right? And we are actually, and this is a product of what we see in our school system, specifically in New Orleans, because I had to tell some school leaders when I went to the schools and I saw them having students walking on lines, I said, that's what they do in prisons, right?
Exactly what they do in prison.
They tell the prisoners, shush. I mean, you don't have to tell an adult what they feel on their lip, but that's what you're teaching them. And I said, what do we do when little boys, specifically Black boys, are having bad days? Well, now we want to punish them. We want to suspend them. They're going to get a whipping. They're going to get beat. They're going to get ostracized. They're going to lose privileges. But nobody's ever asked why that little boy might be acting out.
Right.
So if he's being traumatized somewhere else, and the only reaction to his trauma is what? Greater trauma. He learns the only response is, I dominate others and make them fear me, and I traumatize them, or I'm going to always be the victim of trauma. So once again, I can't deal with my emotions, my feelings. So culturally, I learned to what? I learned to hold them in, and then I explode.
Right.
I explode.
And because here's my own theory. I don't have any proof for this. I know that I can say that sometimes people are traumatized. They overeat, right? But and they become obese and they try to eat away that pain. But when we see those brothers with them tattoos in their face, I think he's been traumatized. Sometimes I even go, look, please don't repeat this, y'all. I even think sometimes they've been sexually violated, right? Sexually abused, because to me, the tattoos on their face are ways of the tattoos all over their body, and the tattoos and the teardrops and all are ways of looking intimidating, because somewhere along the line they were very vulnerable and they were violated, and now they want to make sure that no one ever that this is the first line of defense. I'm going to make you afraid of me. I'm going to look so vicious. I'm going to look so intimidated. I'm going to look so scary that you won't bother me. And if you do, I still have this violent nature that's in me or whatever to respond to that, all because I was traumatized maybe when I was 5 or 6 years old.
I don't know if that theory has an actual name, but that's a theory that I've seen women talk about in terms of after they've been sexually violated, that the survivor instinct moves them to want to gain weight or to wear different clothing or to actually what we're talking about is how do you de-identify, right? So I need to de-identify from the soft, caring, loving Black man, and I need to identify with the hardened, I'll hurt you immediately, there is no softness over here identity to protect myself, because the other reality of it is, just as you said, if at a moment of my vulnerability somebody violated me, then now I'm forever fearful that I am forever vulnerable.
Vulnerable, right.
And I'm not, right? I'm not. That's why oftentimes.
But Doc, I hate to cut you off. Now we just touched on something that's amazing. Now we get deep in these conversations. But now imagine love. Love is the most vulnerable position that a person can be in. So if you're afraid to be vulnerable because you have been violated and hurt before, then you'll never be able to really understand the power of love.
So why is it so easy for so many Black men to degrade and demean Black women? Because they're afraid of love. I'm gonna actually make a connection with this woman. I'm gonna actually love her because look, I do remember this growing up. Man, you can't love them. Man, don't be telling the girls you love them. But the first thing they tell you to do, if you want to have some sex, tell them you love them.
Yeah.
Say you love them. That's what they want to hear. But it's not love. It's me manipulating the situation to get what I think I need to have love demonstrated to me. but I'm failing to express love, right? So that's why another thing, if we, we could get real deep, but we're gonna come back to the kind of mental health piece and the cultural piece, because once again, that's what has happened in the culture. Black men have been told, and this is what I was gonna say about it in schools. Little black boys are oftentimes told to sit down and do what? Shut up.
Shut up, yeah.
But then when you become a man, you're told to stand up and lead. Well, where did I get that training?
Right.
If for 18 years of my life, I've been told to sit down, shut up, don't do nothing. You're not smart enough. You're just like your daddy. All you need to do is play football, play basketball, buy you my house, and that's it. Well, then when LeBron James as a basketball player wants to speak out on something, he's told to shut up and dribble, because that's what America has said that his value is in.
Right.
So to your point about the culture, and I don't know where you're about to go, but that's what I'm saying. The segue for me is the fact that culturally, we're not training little boys. So that's why I love to see you and your sons, because you're training them to be fully embodied people, humans, men, persons. They're fully able to express all of who they are. That ain't gay, that's human.
Right.
That's person.
And we talk about that vulnerability, that piece. Where does cultural shift take place? Because here's my thing. We go back and we listen to the OJs. Last night, me and my woman said we cry together. Yeah.
Together.
Come on, man. Right?
So
that's vulnerable. And that's masculine.
You want to know when the shift happened?
When the black rappers started doing all of those gangster black.
Gotcha. Hey, look, go back and check the numbers, right? I use this film, Hip Hop Beyond Beats and Rhymes. Look at the same year who came out, Public Enemy, Don't Fight the Power. Guess who else dropped that year?
NWA.
Snoop Dogg.
Oh, Snoop, okay.
Gin and Juice.
Yeah.
He told the world it ain't no fun if the homies can't have none, while Public Enemy actually sold more records, was telling us to fight the power.
Right.
But the white music execs in the industry said, we're gonna slow that down. So once again, you got Queen Latifah, MC Lyte coming out, they dropping Bitches with Problems, BWP, or BWA, Bitches with Attitude.
Yeah.
Right? You got the exact complete opposite representation of the fulfillment of Black identity being castigated and ostracized because of this one little segment or just figment of Black identity that white folks can make money off. Because even today, and look, call it what it is, but anytime so our homeboy Birdman said he'd have made right with everybody in Cash Money, right? That's his last. He said that his brother that came home, which I'll say this too, I don't know how this gonna go. I don't want nobody to come up on me because I don't live that life, but I don't know how Birdman brother getting all this play when you can't get Doc Aside. Doc Aside don't get that much play. Big brother homeboy to come home and he getting all kind of interviews and all kind of stuff to talk about stuff that happened 20 and 30 years ago. Why is that relevant today?
Right. But why is that street life? Why do we care what happened in the street?
Because he coming for Master P throat. Then you got this other cat talking about Master P broke. I don't know if he broke, but I know his shoes selling for $299 on the internet. And you don't make that many shoes if you ain't selling some of them.
Right.
So something, he got a whole lot of rap snacks. I've been seeing cats eat rap snacks for at least 15 years. So somebody buying it.
Right.
And I still ain't seen no tax. I mean, I guess if we want to see his tax return, he's more likely to give them to us than Donald Trump at this point. But the reality being, as you said, the culture being, and I think the cultural shift is just what we both agree to, is that when somehow, some way, music, TV, athletes, they put down the mantle of actual real Black expression and picked up a very narrow scope of Black lived experience, and that's all they present.
Man, I got so much to say because I just watched Bel Air. And I think that's part of the reason why the ratings haven't been so great. I mean, not the ratings are fine. The reviews have been negative because it does not play into that stereotypical Black male. We see a young brother who is, the situation that got him there. This is a drama, but still he's charismatic. He's intelligent.
Wait, hold on. Think about the situation. He went and played hoops, and the guy that was selling dope, he made the bet, so you got to pay the man. And then, as we see, the ball hit the dude, and come on, bro, like we would have been on course before. Come on, bro, you can't. Somebody shot the ball and it hit you.
Right.
Okay, bro, please watch the ball. But the hyper masculine drug dealer now wants to fight. They done jumped on dudes. So he really was doing a very compassionate thing because he didn't shoot at anybody. He shot at us. Say, get off my pot.
Right.
So even if you look, bro, we do this all the time, bro. Because if you really break down the nuts and bolts of that, if I see you get jumped on, I'm gonna do the same thing.
Right.
Get off my feet.
Right.
I don't want to hurt anybody, so I'm gonna shoot in the air to try to stop it. But I gotta stop it. I can't just let my people get beat on.
Right.
But yeah, to your point though, it is not the stereotypical ideal of what they thought. Because when the trailers were coming out, they thought we was gonna go out there and be a womanizer, a thug, and a gangster.
Right. And now he's all he is a normal person. Right. Yeah. And they're not used to seeing a normal, and I hate to say this, brother, but a normal, straight black male. That is, he's not being a gangster. He's the son that we all know. Yeah. That we all know who's never portrayed. Huh?
He's the son that we want. He's the one who he got there. And of course, it's a TV show, so everything gets answered in a 38-minute segment, right? But the point is that, like, he's able to navigate and negotiate new spaces intellectually, emotionally, psychologically, not physically, but he still got a little swag because he's on the basketball team, he's doing this thing. But he's not using that as his sole means of engagement.
Right.
So people are mad because and really, I think what it is they want the silly caricature of black men that the original Fresh Prince of Bel-Air represented, but the reboot is saying no. This really how young brothers out here getting it.
Right. And he's not. And what's more important is when we say really how young brothers out there getting it, he is a representation of the vast majority of black men. The thugs are the small percentage. The gangsters are the small percentage of black men. But that's who is propagated to the world. But let's get to this cultural piece and then we'll go because it's almost a whole hour show. So both in South Africa, right, and in the United States, which I will say this, I believe that black mental health in the United States is progressing. It is not where it was 10 years ago. Yeah. Black people are more open to talking about therapy. There's barbershops. This was ingenious. Barbershops around the country are being housed as kind of places where black men can have informal therapy sessions, right? Yeah. Or even formal therapy sessions if you look at it. So black men black mental health in the United States is moving forward. South Africa is pretty progressive also, but there's still some hangups in both cultures, both communities, in certain segments where it's like, I'm not going to talk to a therapist. I'd rather go and we've had this conversation when we had the sister from South Africa, and her name escaping right now. But some people seek traditional healers. Black folk in our community may go to the pastor, to the church, or whatever have you. And both, bless you, brother.
Thank you,
and
sir.
Both are fine in their place as tools, as extra tools to a mental health treatment toolkit or whatever have you, right? But how do we get them to get to that other tool, to the therapist, to see the psychologist, to talk to the social worker, even to get that medication that they may need when they're dealing with, some very, very serious mental health?
So what I think about in terms of the reality of what's happened is that one, it's the advance of African Americans in the field of mental health care, right? That's the first thing. So the more people that are diverse in the field, the more diversity you will have in the ability to provide the care to the people that are diverse that's seeking the care, right? That's the first thing. Second thing, we're changing the narrative. So actually, I teach my classes oftentimes that we need people of color and people who are sensitive to issues that people of color have doing the research. Because Robert Guthrie wrote the book that said even a rat was white, because back in the day, folks didn't even want to do research on black rats because the belief was that anything black was inferior. So the fact is now we have to have folks who understand that it's not about inferiority, it's about studying what happens to those persons who look different that makes them appear inferior in those moments, right? So one, we got more people in the profession. Two, we're doing the work and we're publishing and putting the work out there so it can be actually disseminated and then ingested by the community at levels that they get. The third thing that I think about, which is so vitally important, is we are learning how to use all of the tools that we have to put ourselves in spaces to do this work, right? So there's therapy for Black girls, Psychology Today, there's the Association of Black Psychologists, there's multiple divisions within the American Psych Association that deal with issues around ethnic identity. You have various what we call affinity groups that are able to actually have these conversations. Then once again, you have the vast majority of affinity groups and organizations that support affinity groups that are actually having these conversations. So when we couple the fact that we have more professionals in the discipline who are doing the work, we have more professionals in the field that are doing the work that's disseminating the information to the communities so that they can actually ingest it and deal with it. And then, and this is why I say this is most important, because we have to make sure that the people who are in these spaces have the right information, right? So that's why it becomes really important that our churches, our barbershops, our government partner with the right individuals who actually do this work. So I'm gonna say this, and I might step on some toes, but I usually try to explain to people a little bit better way to think about mental health. And I use this in a tongue-in-cheek, kind of delivery, but I think about mental health care providers in terms of 3 restaurants. Think about McDonald's, Five Guys, and Houston's, the restaurant, right? Or think of any restaurant that's 4 or 5 star. And this is why I think we have some of these problems. So for me, when I think about a McDonald's burger, you can't eat that burger every day, right? You shouldn't eat that burger every day. Now, if you're in the clutch, if that's the only thing in you, whatever, if you just had that little craving, fine. But it can't sustain you every day. It's not what's going to actually help you change. It might sustain you for the moment. That's what I think about a lot of times, is what I think about low-grade levels of mental health care. It's like a McDonald's hamburger. It can sustain you in the moment because your need is not so great.
Right.
Then you got Five Guys. Five Guys, huh?
Much better burger. Much
better burger, better ingredients, better ambiance in the restaurant. A little bit higher degree of probably preparation because we know that those ingredients are real beef. We know those are fresh onions. We know those things, right? But how many times a week can you really try out on a Five Guys burger?
Right.
Once again, it's better than a McDonald's burger, but it really ain't what you need to be eating every day.
Right.
So let's sit down and talk about Houston's. What you order when you go to Houston's, big brother?
Crab cakes.
I ordered a burger at Houston. You might get that pecan and custard salmon, or you might get that fire T-bone or the lamb chop. So you might get a nice Cobb salad if you're feeling right.
Right.
But the thing is, that menu at Houston, it includes a hamburger, and that hamburger actually is really good, to be honest. That is a dope. But that's not what you're gonna get there. You're gonna get a menu that will provide sustenance, that will provide care, that will provide nutrition to you at a level that you could almost perceivably eat at Houston's every day.
Yeah, if you could afford it.
If you could afford it. So that's my whole point about therapy. So as a psychologist, I'm oftentimes thinking psychology and psychiatry as at that Houston's level. But we don't get to have as much interaction because people price us out of what they need. So people oftentimes trying to get their mental health care met at a dollar menu.
Yeah, come on.
And that's not going to sustain you, bro. So we talk about culture and how we got to change it. We got to actually help people understand. And this is why I break it down to people. Say, look, if you come and see me 6 sessions, that's $600, right? You go out and buy a nice pair of shoes. How much is that?
I got a pair of balance, bro.
How long them shoes gonna last you?
I can't even wear them like I want to wear them, to make them last. I gotta wear them.
My thing is, invest that $600 so that you can go out and wear your $600 pair of shoes where you want to, but you need to take care of yourself first.
Right, because you can't wear them dead.
Nah.
Yeah, you can't wear them dead. Well, whether you're physically dead or spiritually dead or emotionally dead or psychologically dead, right?
Right. But it's not going to have any value to you because you're not taking care of yourself, right?
Right.
That's why when people kind of talk about how white folks can kind of be in these spaces where their attire is not very expensive, it's because they're valuing the experience that they can psychologically remember and have and keep. Because they're not so caught up. I mean, once again, we know this, bro. Growing up in New Orleans, if it was Easter and you didn't have a fresh fit, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Every holiday, you need a fresh fit. As we got older, realize, wait a minute, why am I buying clothes for one day as though I don't have clothes that I wear that's nice anyway.
You know what CeeLo said? It's all for another Negro to see. It's all for another Negro to see.
And that ain't helping me at all.
That ain't helping me at all, yeah.
At all.
But
yeah,
look,
man.
I want to say this before we go. I want to tell my people, you know how they say you got to fake it till you make it? Sometimes you may not be feeling well. I challenge everybody for the next 30 days. Maybe you want to start off today. Maybe you want to start off on March 1st. When you wake up in the morning, look in the mirror and just tell yourself, I love you. Tell yourself, I care about you. Tell yourself today will be better than yesterday, even if yesterday was great, right? So those type of mantras, those type of practices, even if you don't feel it, it makes you, you begin to believe it, right? You know, the old Christian church talks about what? Speaking things into existence.
Yep.
Sometimes you can speak those things.
What?
Faith, what do you say?
Faith is what? Evidence of things not seen, but yet to be.
Faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen.
Uh-oh.
You know, I know that old. Oh, did it catch me? Did I go out?
Yeah, one of us did.
Oh, all right. The faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. There you go. And that's exactly. So you stand in that mirror and you can start giving these mantras to yourself. Watch how much it improves, and drink you some water every day. Some of y'all, you pee yellow.
Yeah. Get off them big shots. Get off them big shots.
Yeah, but look, brother, I thank you so much for being here, man. And I called you spur of the moment because I felt, I felt the pain of my South African family, and I felt the pain of my African American family with Ian, as well as the sister who jumped from the 29th floor, right? Yeah. And believe it or not, there was another sister from Alabama who recently. So I just felt that, to have a quick conversation, even though it's probably an hour and some change, but hopefully this conversation helps somebody. Hopefully it touches somebody and sends them in the right direction or whatever have you. Won't you leave your email address, say your email address now, because somebody may want to reach out to you and talk about it. And I'll definitely put it in the description.
Oh, no doubt, big brother. Look, man, I just want to thank you once again. I done froze up. Look like I'm back.
You back? I can hear you.
All right. So I just want to say once again, thank you for this opportunity, brother. Anytime we could beat up each other, unless it's one of our kids, we're going to do it. We're going to rock. We're going to roll. So what I want to say to you, man, definitely continue this platform. Thank you for pulling me in, because these are the conversations we had. You know how we wrote Brother D. This is what we really be talking about. We ain't talking about just booties and basketball. So the reality is this. If you want to holler at me, you can reach me at Dr. Turner 504. That's DrTurner 504@gmail.com. If that's hard to remember, just remember your boy Dr. Turner from New Orleans, and you'll find me. Just Google that, man. I'm out here.
Man, and always laugh, man. Let me tell you something. I went to a funeral one time, and then I'm gonna end this. I went to a funeral one time for a relative, man, and the relative was a silly person in real life. He was a funny person in real life, and it was my uncle, my daddy's brother. And when they started telling stories, everybody's supposed to be sad and melancholy and just down, but they started telling stories about his life. How you can't not laugh? How
That's who he was.
Not laugh, because he was a hilarious person, right? And even if it was momentarily, I know the feelings go back and forth, but for those moments when we thought about him, you laughed, and it made the fact that he was no longer here feel a little bit better, right? Because he brought a laughter to your spirit. And I hope everybody always say, "Oh, brother Assad, you funny," or whatever have you, cracking up. I hope that when I'm gone, right? I hope it's 50 or 60 years from now, let's be clear. But when I'm gone, that somebody says, because God funny, God a lot funny. Like, when you gone, and next thing you know, you're gone. No.
I didn't mean like that, dog. Wait, hold on, bro.
I didn't mean right now, but I hope I brought some laughter to somebody. I hope I bring some laughter, some joy to people. And I think that Mahalia Jackson said, if I could help somebody along the way, then my living will not have been in vain, man. So thank you so much, brother Dr. Turner. And I'll go and end this recording now. I don't know why they put it up here.